so happy we alive.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Was there a question? Okay, we'll take one or two questions and then we must move on.
Okay, I'll try to make this quick. I want to start by just thanking the panel from the bottom of my heart for the honesty and clarity with which they've addressed the racist drug war. It's like it's lifting a weight from my heart. I was 6 when World War II started, a bit precocious. I was aware of things like extermination camps and concentration camps. And I spent a good part of my youth sort of contemplating the question, how could the good Germans allow this? How could they, just in the face of the evidence, after all, Dachau was 18 miles from downtown Munich, how could they allow this to happen? And I finally concluded, in the phrase of the day, it can't happen here. But it is happening here. A form of genocide, and I truly believe that's what it is happening, and we're denying it. Our politicians deny it. The media denies it. We're living on as if this thing isn't going on, and we all know it's going on. But my question specifically is to Deborah Small and your brilliant remarks, and to Cliff Thornton and your equally brilliant remarks. The thing that bothers me is, why is the black leadership? I can understand the black mother and the black grandmother facing crack cocaine and street dealers and all that, wanting law and order as a priority. But how can the Black Caucus and how can the leadership of the black organizations go along with the conspiracy that everything business as usual, it's okay, that 30% of all black males will spend a year or more in prison? It's okay that we're going to block them from getting a higher education, and at the bottom, we're going to funnel them into the criminal justice system. And someone needs to speak out, and I think we need some leadership from that group, and I just wondered what your thoughts were on that. Thank you.
Deborah suggested that we take the second question also, and then they will answer both of them. And again, our apology for not having more time for this. We crowded the agenda a little too much. You want to go ahead with your question?
Throughout the day here, there's one thing that does bother me, and that is I hear what I'm hearing from the other side, and that is I'm hearing that marijuana and crack and heroin all lumped in the same group. And I think we have to be very, very careful, because I think it's counterproductive to legalization of marijuana. I think you scare a lot of people when you start adding in cocaine and crack, because then they're saying, okay, well, we legalize marijuana, we're just a real short step from the other drugs. And in my opinion, those drugs are dangerous and cause a lot of problems, especially in the inner cities. There's a lot of violence, there's a lot of pain and suffering due to crack and due to heroin, but not due to marijuana. I think we have to be very, very careful not to include the other two with the one. Deborah?
Yeah, just to touch on the first question as to why our black leaders, or a reason why our black leaders aren't up in arms about this. I can just give you a little short story about many black leaders talking to me after they've heard me talk at not their organization, but other organizations. The thing to me that they say most often is that, Cliff, you are right. But if I come out against the drug war like you have, or anywhere near it, I am tied to either state, local, or federal monies. And if I come out against that, those funds are going to dry up. And I understand that very well, but you have to weigh one against the other. It's like a wedge within the black community, as I see it. That's my perspective. The other thing that I'm addressing is the second question. We're not lumping all of these drugs together. They're already lumped together. The only thing that I'm saying is this about marijuana. Marijuana is the linchpin to this whole drug problem. And by legalizing marijuana first, and let's say medicalizing these other drugs, and taking the taxes to help pay for programs, because when you try to put forth a program of legalization, the first thing people are going to ask for is, where's the money coming from? The money will come from, or most of the money will come from the taxes derived from the sale and distribution of marijuana. Not to mention, over the past 30 years, the $1 trillion or so that we've used to fight this so-called war on drugs.
So I'm going to really speak fast now and say a couple of things on both questions. First, having to do with black leaders. I think that it's a mistake to continue to say that black leaders are not concerned about what's happening on the war on drugs. I think that back in 1986, when they passed those sentencing laws, that there were a number of people who did not really understand, first of all, the full consequence of what they were doing. There was very little debate that went on about these sentencing rules, and how they ended up with the sentences that they had was sort of like an auction. Someone said, I'll give you 5, I'll give you 10, I'll give you 15. And so we ended up with these draconian sentences that no one looked at, no one studied. It wasn't just an issue that black leaders didn't, looked at it and said, oh, it's okay. Everybody said that it was okay. And the overriding concern at that point in time was combating crime. But in the last 10 years, there has definitely been a sea change in opinion that has, I would say it's a rippling up effect. It's starting on the ground level of all of the parents and family members who have relatives who are incarcerated because of these laws, and understanding that there's an inequality in the way that they're enforced. And so it's not accidental that last year you had Charles Rangel, who introduced a bill to get rid of the crack cocaine sentencing disparity, something that he supported back in 1986, and he's considered by many people, to be a black drug warrior. Well, I say you need to take him out of that category. And Maxine Waters introduced a bill to get rid of federal mandatory sentencing for drug offenses as completely. So and these are two prominent black elected officials, leaders of the Black Caucus. Rangel is considered to be the dean after Conyers in terms of leadership. And if the Democrats get the Congress back next year, he will be head of the House Ways and Means Committee. So I say that as quickly as I can, because these are people who can be allies, and we need to start reaching out to them and treating them that way. On the question of lumping in all drugs, I would say that yes, you're right, that crack is a dangerous drug, but all crack is a different form of cocaine. Cocaine is a dangerous drug. Heroin is a dangerous drug. But more black people are dying in my community from alcohol and nicotine than are dying from any of those drugs all linked together. And personally, I think the harm that is being done to African American and Latino communities, particularly inner city communities, under the guise of fighting the war on drugs, where we now will spend more money incarcerating young black men. More black men are going to prison in New York every year than are graduating from any of the state university systems combined. What is that saying about our society? So as much as, and I'll tell you that my official position is that I am not necessarily for legalization of all drugs, but I will tell you that if that did happen tomorrow miraculously, and we woke up in an Oz that's different from the one you see on TV, that it would be a hell of a lot better than the system that we have right now.
I think the extra time was well worth it. Thank you very much for this panel. If Mr. McFarland can come up.
Welcome to welcome to www.moresongs.com. Today we're in Washington, D.C. with Mr. Cliff Thornton, who is the founder and the chief operating officer of an organization known as Efficacy. Maybe just briefly, Cliff, you could tell us about Efficacy.
Well, Efficacy is a grassroots organization that looks at peaceful ways of responding to social problems. The primary goal of Efficacy right now is to try and get rid of the crime and violence as is associated with the drug war, but more specifically to bring the drug war to an end. I also might mention too that I was just elected to the board of NORML, and I'm very proud of that. But the anecdote that I would like to convey is this, and it's very simple,